Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, picking up in the aftermath of technically last episode, but obviously the episode before that. Obviously, we're picking up at the Walker Ranch after Liam gets shot. Obviously, Walker wants to take care of his brother, but obviously, you have Clint kind of making a whole point of, no, like, if you don't want anyone else in your family to get hurt because no one needs to, you need to go in there and we're all going to have a little sit down. Obviously, the entire time he's trying to make them, try and paint the picture of like, oh yeah, like, your father isn't who he claims to be, especially later on when he finds out Hoyt's a criminal and it's like, hey, like, the fact of the matter is you're associated with a criminal is like, this must be this hot-bloodedness that you use to kind of, base your Duke character off. And it never actually crossed my mind to think about that obviously he based Duke off of Hoyt, considering them being best friends since they were kids and everything. Never really crossed my mind, but I was like, oh, that was really interesting that they correlated, because even after all this time, that never crossed my mind to connect the dots in that way. But obviously trying to, like, showcase to everyone it's like, oh, he's not a good person, like, he's the reason why my wife died and stuff like that. But even Walker's later on talking to, like, Trevor, trying to tell him it's not that simple. Because at the end of the day, and I'm surprised Walker didn't stress this point. Like, he talked about later on, it's like, I can't say, like, I am innocent with what happened to your mom. But the fact is, your mom, like, died. She bled out hiding the money for your dad. She was so concerned about hiding the money for your dad, but maybe the argument could be she was hiding that money for them as a family, but he's the one that wanted to go guns a-blazing, even though Walker was like, the fact of the matter is we need to get her to the hospital. He was so caught up in the moment, and she didn't want to be like, no, babe, it's okay, it's good. I can keep going. Like, she didn't want to disappoint him, and she wanted to pretend like everything was okay just to keep him going. So it's a combination of many different things that sadly led to the tragedy. It's not just one thing. It's not just on Walker. Many different things played into that moment. Like, also Clint being who he is led to all of that. You do have them trying to talk to Trevor, talk him out of all of this, but it's like, you don't want to do this. You're a good kid, because for him, it's like no one was supposed to get hurt. It's like, regardless of whether that was a plan or not, someone did get hurt. Liam did, because luckily, Bonham had returned just in time, and he found Liam and was trying to take care of him while also giving him pain pills. It's like, Dad, where'd you get those? It's like, it's not important. It's like, those are your pills. And Clint ends up stealing them later on, and ends up parading around in front of Bonham and Evelyn, and it's like, oh, these pain pills. And even Evelyn's looking at him like, where'd you get those from? It's like, oh, what's this? He's like, nah, if it was a rotten tooth or something like that, you're the type of guy that would have sucked it up. So what could it be? Something you don't want to talk about. And he goes, cancer? And then, like, Bonham kind of looks away, and he's like, oh, it is. And he looks at Evelyn, he's like, oh, and you didn't even tell your wife. He's like, when I had a wife, I told her everything. It's like, shut up, Clint. Shut up. I get it. You're mad and you're angry. Same thing for Trevor, because he lost a mom, you lost a wife. But it's like, to be fair, it's like, this would have happened regardless. You lived a life of criminals. You were bank robbers. Your luck was going to run out one point or another. Maybe Walker escalated that, but it's like, oh, you knew that cops were going to be waiting there and stuff like that. You didn't help this situation when you turned it into a gunfight instead of just surrendering when you were surrounded. You turned it into a gunfight. You're the reason why you played a big part in why your wife ended up dying, but you need to blame someone else, because he needs to blame him for, like, not only was your mom taken from you and my wife was taken from me, but it's like, we were taken away from each other. You had to go so much of your life without me. To be fair, that was already a thing. Because they spent so much. Because I don't think, despite what he says, I don't think this would have been the final job. He would have found an excuse to go more and more because he loved it too much. And maybe the argument could be he loved it a little bit more than his son. Hey, an argument that could potentially be made. But they do put Liam in the back of the room. Luckily, Trevor does kind of listen when, like, Stella's pleading with him. It's like, you wanted to run away and not be them, right? He's like, or did you just want to end up right back here and be like them? And he's like, I wanted to run away with you. And she's like, then focus on that person, on that good person, and help me save my uncle's life, because if we don't do anything, he's going to die. Because even Clint's kind of like, all right, help him. I think he legitimately wasn't expecting him to actually help Liam. He was hoping that Liam would die, because, like, oh, losing your brother, then you might just feel how I feel. Because I thought it was interesting, too, he wanted to get Jackson out. I guess Jackson is kind of like the only other family he has left now that, Crystal's gone and Twyla's in jail. So it's like there's only person left in this family is Jackson. So, but Jackson's already been processed and everything, so there's no getting him back easily. So, I mean, to be fair, it's interesting because it's like, right, if he could have potentially found another way around that, but he didn't. I mean, I guess it's like too much time would have been wasted on that. It's like, well, if I can't get Jackson easily, I guess he's just going to rot in jail. Or maybe he had plans to go rescue him eventually. I don't know. But it does beg the question, like, he immediately kind of gave up on that pretty damn quickly, you know? It was also interesting, too, to know that the Walkers have such a interesting history. Their family dates back to, riding with Wyatt Earp. And he's like, oh, really? That's so interesting. Interesting fact. And he's like, well, that's all it is. It's just a fact. And he's like, yeah, but, he was a criminal before he became a lawman. Very much like your son and blah, 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 blah. Once again, trying to paint this particular narrative of Walker. Circling back to it, Stella and Augie were able to call up Trey, and obviously he was able to help them with the whole Liam situation of like cutting a wound, relieving pressure, and obviously cauterizing it, But like I said, Clint didn't want him to survive. He wanted him to die. It's like, yeah, but he would have died, and it's like, that's the point, son. Because Clint he convinced Trevor that really we were just there to kind of scare this family and make Walker confess how, like, that he was responsible for her death. The thing is, Clint halfway takes responsibility, but he doesn't take as much responsibility as he should, because even Walker acknowledges he knows he made mistakes. Like, he's the one that pushed for it. He was just doing his job, but he still pushed for them to commit the crimes. To be fair, they needed to be brought to justice. It's just that he needed to fill that hole in his heart. Because that's another reason why Clint takes it so personally. It's like, we welcomed you in. Your son was broken, and we brought him in and made him part of our family because for, Emmeline and, Emmeline in particular was like, we brought your son and we took him in, and it's like, yeah, and I thank you for it, but I did the same thing for your son. When he was broken, we took him in like family, and he betrayed us, so my son kind of did the same thing for you, and here we are, Never really thought about that being like, that coming, I guess it never crossed my mind to think that came full circle in that regard too. Walker came into their family a little broken and betrayed them, and Trevor kind of did the same thing because he was kind of broken from his family situation, and he's kind of much like the anger about his mom that, Walker had anger about, Emily. So there are definitely parallels you can draw between that, interestingly enough. So there's a little bit of Walker there. There's a little bit of Clint as well, which that's a whole thing later on. But for him, it's like, the thing I want from you, I want you to rob a bank. And it's like, wait, what? Hoyt, doing all the smack talking, gets pistol whipped to the point he gets knocked out of the chair because Hoyt, is the shit talker that he is. But it's like, oh, look, the ropes came untied. Must have happened when the chair fell over, even though he'd already gotten his hands free. But when it was all said and done, both of them are going to work together while one of Clint's men watches to make sure they do it. So they're meant to go off and commit the crime, but we find out, like, back at the house at the ranch, Clint calls it in. He wants them to be in a desperate situation like his family was. It's like, right, I want you to be in a situation you can't, like, I thought it was just going to start with, like, you robbing a place and you being, because he wanted to destroy Walker's reputation, because it's like, right, you arrested us and everything, you ended up being, like, a cop and everything, but now I'm going to destroy your reputation as a cop because you're going to be responsible for robbing a bank, and I'm basically doing everything I can to turn your life upside down, like my entire life was turned upside down, so... But we didn't get that conversation, but apparently at some point Walker and Hoyt had the conversation. He's like, I'm sorry, like, if I hadn't broken your trust, you wouldn't be right here. He's like, hey, the fact of the matter is, I would worry about kicking your ass later after we get through this. But the fact of the matter is, he's like, you got me. I'm the bank robber expertise, and like everything in my life has led me to this moment of kind of robbing a bank with my best friend. So, how are we going to handle this? And he's like, I'll follow my lead. So he goes in there and he holds Walker hostage, even though the gun is empty. So it's like, all right. Like, honestly, in a weird way, I'm sure Hoyt was kind of having fun because for the first time, like, his friend's on the other side of the law. And it's like, oh, like, we're kind of a duo in this. So they get the money and bail Luckily, Walker knows like the operations of like what they do during the circumstances like this. So he's like, all right, they're going to go here. So like we just hide under the bridge and wait for a minute. And then he's just like, look at this. It's like, look at you like on the other side of the law. Like he's like, I never would have expected that, you know. But obviously, as they were pulling away, lo and behold, who shows up? None other than Mickey. And it's kind of that slow crawl from the car, and then Mickey just sitting there. Like, I guess she heard the description of the car and was like, Walker? Hoyt, maybe? Freshly out of prison and stuff like that. Because obviously for her, it's like, she was talking to Walker earlier about his, like, his DPS meeting and stuff like that, and obviously even going to James being like, I even got a call from Bonham about like showing up at the ranch. I didn't know what that was about. So James had called Walker. He's like, he did seem like a little off, but they're like, something seemed off, but maybe he's just worried about the hearing and stuff like that. So she confronts them and immediately like, hey. And it's like, she's immediately pissed because she sees the money. And it's like, let me guess. She immediately jumped to it. You're bailing him. You're doing this for him. And he's like, whoa, why are you making it sound so bad? And she tells her, shut up. Because for her, she just assumed like, oh, you're robbing and you're helping him in the long run. Because when they first met and everything, what did he do? Like, he kind of made excuses. He kind of helped Hoyt and stuff. So she kind of feels like, oh, Hoyt's probably in some trouble again. And you need to help him bail him out. And that's why it's just like, no, Clint's got my family, you know? Because for her, she was like, because it's like being betrayed by her. It's like, we're partners. You're supposed to like call, like, so what's going on here? And it's like finding out about Clint's like, all right, well, I'll back you up. He's like, no, like, we can't take the chance, like, that guy who was watching us can't be too far behind. He sped away in the moment the cops rolled up, but like he could meet up with us, so we need to make sure we get back before Clint decides to hurt my family. But you know, Mickey's like no, that I'm gonna be listening in and I'm not too far off. It's like, you know, because he's like, just trust me to fix all of this. Basically saying like, whatever repercussions come from me doing this, as well as the DPS meeting, like whatever goes down, I will suffer those consequences. Just let me take this opportunity to try and fix it. So they do come back, and I don't think that was necessarily what Clint was kind of hoping for. He was hoping they'd probably get caught up in everything. And even if they did get away, it'd kind of be an X against Walker's reputation and everything. But when they get back, you know, it's like, okay, we got the money. And Trevor's like, okay, we got the money, Dad. But he's like, no, that's not what this is all about. Even him being like, what is this about? It's like, here's the man who killed your mom. Like, he wanted Trevor to look him in the eye. He kind of wanted to do a whole thing of, like, probably getting his son to kill Walker. But it's like, you don't have to do this, you know? Luckily, Hoyt had the gun from earlier from the bank robbery, so it turns into a bit of a shootout. His people get taken down, and the only person left is Clint. And a knife he had stolen from inside the house he uses to stab Hoyt. I was like, come on, no, come on. Liam got shot and he's fine. Hoyt, you're fine. It's like, no, I guess like a vital organ got struck type of business, and it's just like, damn, dude. And then there's so much to that. For one, Walker, it's like, the fact is you're only here because of me. 2, like, you're my best friend and I have to watch you die. And 3, it's like the thing between him and Jerry. Like, they were in a bad spot, and Jerry, like, he made it clear how he felt about Jerry, that, like, he was always serious about the proposals. And it's like, it's one thing for him to be in jail, it's another for him to be dead. It's like, and considering, like, especially for Walker, it's like, I never had an opportunity to make up with you, but it's like, you know, he forgave you and everything, you know. That I think, like, Hoyt did forgive him and everything, but I'm sure, like, for Jerry, it's like, that regret's going to lay inside of her, like, right, he just wanted to be with me, but I wouldn't respond, and my feelings weren't reciprocal for him, you know. For Hoyt, it's like, you know, he's like, I always knew, like, things were going to end this way for me, but Walker's like, no, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, no, like, the entire family gathered around, and he's like, I love you all, you know? And he dies in their arms, and it's like, that's the most heartbreaking thing. Because even Bonham's there, you know, it's like, obviously he wasn't the biggest fan of Hoyt, but it's still like, you are part of this family and everything, and it's like, you were doing so much to help us, and it's like, you didn't deserve this, you know? And obviously Clinton's like, oh, I needed to take at least one from you, so you know how I feel. He's like, you're right. I do know what it feels. Revenge. And he proceeds to kick the shit out of Clint. And you're like, yeah. I was kind of hoping to get to the point he's beating and wailing on him. And it's getting, like, obviously kind of coinciding with, like, oh, you're supposed to be having that hearing about how you conducted yourself. And you're doing it again here. I thought it was going to be a thing of he's going to do it, like, beat the crap out of him to the point, like, Stella or somebody has to stop him. But it took Trevor firing a gun in the air and even asking his dad, what happened? You know, why didn't you ever come home? It's like, yeah, because it's like, your dad is lying. He's like, no. He's like, the fact is, I'm owning up to the fact is of my part to play and everything. I did push your family to commit the robberies because that was me doing my job. He's like, so you don't have to be like him. So are you like me? He's like, because if I were you, I'd pull that trigger, because Walker was literally in that same situation recently. Granted, he didn't pull the trigger. He had someone to kind of talk him down, but I think that's what Walker was hoping for, because he was like, the thing is, you're not me and you're not your dad. Like this situation right here will make a lot of choices about who you are. And then, like, you know, Mickey shows up and she talks about what we learned last episode. She's like, I met your mom. Your mom was speeding on her way to get back to you. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, you know better than anyone, it's not Walker's fault. Who would have been the one that convinced her? And Clint was like, don't listen to her, you know? And obviously, in that moment, Trevor, you know, they were able to kind of talk him down, and he kind of puts the gun down, because it's just like, because no matter what he does, like, he's just going to ruin his life, and he, you know, he doesn't want to end up like his dad, because even earlier in the episode, it was this thing of like, he was like, yeah, don't let them get in your head, and then, you know, Trevor said this almost really sad line of, don't worry, the only person in my head is you, and he walks away, and there's this look on Clint's face, like, he was almost kind of sad to hear that, like, like, am I, you know, it's like his need for revenge, what he's doing to his son, he's sending his son down this path, rather than, in his own mind, it's like, I do want better for my son, but, you know, this is the betterment for everybody. But, Clint picks up the gun, but he gets shot. I was wondering if it was, so I was wondering, I was like, is it going to be Stella? If it was Stella, I was like, that'd probably complicate things between her and Trevor. Granted, there's no going back to this. Like, I don't see things kind of ending well on that front anyway, so that's probably kaput. Like, finding a way into a relationship after this is going to be super complicated if they decide to go down that route. But it was actually Liam who shot him. It seems like he dies the way he passes out, and obviously for Trevor, it's just like, in that moment, he lost his dad. Granted, his dad brought this upon himself, like, creating this whole circumstance. So, he killed Hoyt, now he dies, but he doesn't get to live and pay for his crimes. I mean, kind of already did because he was locked up, but like this one in particular, all the chaos he sowed and caused. And, you know, Walker runs over and holds Liam, Stella and August come over. Obviously, Bonham is over there, you know, comforting Evelyn after everything with Hoyt. So, in the aftermath of everything, you know, the family's trying to piece themselves together, like, considering everything that's happened, you know. And so, for Walker, you know, James, like, I'm sorry about Hoyt and everything, and Liam's going to be better. You know, if it wasn't for Trey, like, Trey ended up helping save Liam's life. But when the time comes, like, you know, what about my DPS hearing? And it's like, and he's like, Walker's like, right. I thought what was going to happen is we're going to find out, like, oh, they gave you an extension considering the circumstances. It's like, no, considering this current situation, they're punishing him. It's like, it's a 2-week suspension, and it's like, or 2-week probation or whatever. And it's like, for Walker, it's like, that's not right. The fact of the matter is, I'm in this circumstance because of my job. My job almost like, my past came back to haunt me. It got my best friend killed. It almost got my brother killed. My family, like, my children, my parents, like, almost because of me. Like, you know, and for him, it's like, he's kind of, his way of, like, it's almost like this thing of, like, it's like I'm being punished because, is it just because of me missing the hearing? But I guess hearing, like, I did all this stuff. Granted, I did all of it under distress. Like, shouldn't that count for something? But it's not. I'm still being punished considering the circumstances. And for him, it's like, considering, you know, all that I've kind of lost. Like, it's like, you were right, James. You were right. Like, he kind of ends up turning in his badge, because for him, it's like, I can't be a better me and I can't do this right now. I need to be better. I need to do better, because if I had been better, then maybe none of this would have happened. His mistakes, how he handled the whole losing Emily thing, led to all of this, and his family suffered the consequences. Hoyt suffered the consequences before it. So it's like, I need to do better. I need to be better. And I think this is a necessary, like, I'm curious how long Walker's going to walk away from it. I mean, he's probably going to even try and decide, like, maybe even when my 2-week probation is up, maybe going back as a Walker, as a Ranger, isn't right for me, because look what pain I brought to my family's doorstep with my actions, you know. And I can never forgive myself if my family were ever in this circumstance again because of me. So maybe I shouldn't have the badge, at least for now, at least until I can become a better me. Then maybe I can, you know, not have to worry about something like this happening again. I don't know. That's a crazy situation to kind of end us off on with him handing in his badge. I think it's a necessary step because all he's done is dive deeper and deeper work to get away from his pain. I think this is a necessary step for him to take, like to take a step back, reevaluate a lot of things, in particular himself. But also, like, what's the aftermath of this? Like, now, like, Walker and Liam's mom knows that their dad is sick and he kept it from her. What about Stella and Trevor? Like they already had issues enough with losing their mom. I think they're already in therapy and stuff, right? They're definitely going to need therapy after this because it's going to be a very PTSD like type of environment, So I'm curious, like when we do pick up with Walker again, will it be like some weeks later, or are we going to pick up immediately after turning in his badge? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see like what he does. Liam's circumstances after all of this. Like, is there going to be any like permanent damage from the gunshot wound? Once again, like the Jerry thing, like the aftermath of everything with Hoyt, especially like considering why her and Hoyt were also kind of a little on the outs. It's also the her and Walker thing, which that's also going to be a thing for Walker. It's like, yeah, Hoyt might have forgiven me, but I feel bad because we had never fully made up, never had a chance to really work out everything before he died. So I think that's going to weigh on Walker's conscience. Like, it took him a long time to get over the whole Emily thing, and I think that's always going to stay with him. And I think this Hoyt might be a new ghost situation that we might see following him. I don't know. I'm really interested to see where they end up taking things going forward from here. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.